Still no breaks in the bizarre double murder of a billionaire couple. Police gave an update today on the investigation into the killings of Barry and Honey Sherman. They were killed 2 years ago. Sherman was the founder of the Apotex drug company, major pharmaceutical giant. He and his wife found dead in their home. Police initially investigated the deaths as a murder-suicide, later announced it was a targeted double homicide. The family had hired private investigators to look into the case. That private investigation is now over. It's been fully handed to Toronto police, who say they're not sure how long it's going to take to sort through hundreds of leads.
I've had murder cases where I've made an arrest 4 years after the fact. And as we know, we have a cold case squad that can make arrests and close cases decades afterwards. I don't think this case is going to fall into that category, but there is a lot of material that has to be gone through before we get to a conclusion.
We're very happy to have the Toronto Star's chief investigative reporter joining us from our studios downtown, Kevin Donovan. He's also the author of this book, The Billionaire Murders, all about the mysterious deaths of Barry and Honey Sherman. Kevin, wonderful to have you with us as always. What do you make of this news conference by Toronto Police today?
Well, I think it had to happen at some point. You recall a year into the investigation, the Toronto Police were criticized heavily by Brian Greenspan and the private detective team at a big press conference where they said the police had screwed up. They had missed fingerprints, palm prints, certain important things at the crime scene. And the family then announced through their private team this $10 million reward. What was interesting about that was that they then said, send all those tips to us, the family, and our private team. And that's something that I think the Toronto Police decided couldn't happen anymore. So now the police have, for the first time in 2 years, said, send the tips to us.
The fact that the private investigation aspect of this has been closed, what does that mean to you?
Well, I think that the last bit of information, in fact, I know the last bit of information came from the private team back in the summer. I think the family has, at least some parts of the family have come to the realization that for something to move forward in the justice system, it has to be the police, it has to be a Crown attorney that are involved. It can't be a private team.
The other thing I'm curious about now is, 2 years since this happened, and, we weren't sure what the police were going to say today. Maybe they would have something new. Again, another call for the public's help here. It continues to confound the Toronto Police as well. In your role as an investigative journalist, what are you hearing?
Well, I've heard, I've had the benefit of being able to cross-examine one of the detectives on the case. Every 6 months, he comes to court and I ask him questions, all pursuant to the Toronto Star trying to unseal some search warrants. And he said as recently as October that they are, quote, cautiously optimistic that they're moving towards a resolution. So I do think they're doing that. I think because of the private investigation, despite what the inspector said today, I think it did slow the police down. And now they want to make sure that all the boxes are checked, that they're not doing a tunnel vision approach. They want to say to the public, give us all your information. Then the police are going to check that out, and I think probably in the next few months we might see a resolution.
The other thing is this bizarre photo, of course, that was released about the bodies being placed like sculptures as well. They got a lot of people talking, Kevin, of course, recently. What do you make of that?
Well, that information came to me about 3 weeks ago, and I asked a lot of questions of a lot of people that were aware of it. I will tell you that the first thing that struck me was the positioning. You see the male figure there has one leg crossed over the other. That's the same as Barry Sherman. And I've asked the police if they looked into this. They say they can't talk about anything on an ongoing case, but this was in the basement room not too far from where the bodies were found. And I think it's important, and one hopes that the police have looked at this as well.
Kevin, we really appreciate you taking the time to come on CTV and talk a little bit more about this story on Today of All Days. Thank you.
Thank you.